Ugh. Give me a minute. Ugh. Hello. So, what I wanted to tell you in this video is my testimony. I wanted to share with you the things that have happened to me so that you can see evidence of God's existence. And I'm not lying about any of it, but I haven't actually said any of it yet, so just if you give me a minute, I'll try to remember it all. I have this large scar on my arm. I'll bring it to the camera. I have this big scar. I'm missing a finger. On my finger it says LOL, an acronym for laugh out loud. Now, what happened was I approached God in prayer. I said to God, show me you're real. Okay, and this was a long time ago and I barely even remember it, but I said that. I said, before I truly, believe, I need to know that you're real. So I took it upon myself to pray to him and to let him know that I wanted proof. So I was yelling at my mother one day, sometime after this prayer, and I noticed the Bible hanging out of a closet. So I took it as a sign that God wanted me to read the Bible from beginning to end, and so I did. I read the Bible from beginning to end, and in the middle of it I had a vision, a powerful vision like a dream while being awake, and it was like a hallucination, and it was a vision of a clay pot, and the clay pot had a tower on it with a rhinoceros on the bottom and my face on the top, and then I read to the end of the Bible, and the day I finished reading the Bible is the day after that. I went to take a shower, and the hot water heater had broken the day I read the Bible, or finished reading the Bible. So I walked out to where the hot water heater was after, getting the cold water on me, and I saw a window, and the window was bright and shiny, and I was already yelling at God, or I was yelling at my mom before I read the Bible, and that anger was still in me, so I just kind of walked up to the window and punched the window, and the glass fell on my arm, and then I got rushed to a hospital. Now the interesting thing is, when I was walking on the floor a couple days before finishing the Bible, I felt the filth of the floor, the dirt of it, the filth of it against my feet, and it felt abnormal, like an abnormal filth was touching my body. So I prayed. I prayed to Jesus and I asked him to bless my floor. So I had punched this window stark naked at 6:30 in the morning at this that kind of building. It had an apartment in the back. My dad worked there and he owned a car lot. And this glass fell on my arm, and then I kind of lied down on the floor and let the blood pour out of my body. And someone came into work early that day, and he came into work at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, and he usually comes in at 9. And he called the ambulance and rushed me to a hospital. And that's one sign. And what I did after that is I designed the clay pot. I had, very little money. I collected disability. I didn't have a job. I didn't go to school. I had very little friends. So I would spend a lot of time thinking about that day and that vision. And I painted things on the Gaia pot. I called it a Gaia pot. Gaia is the spirit of the earth, like Yahweh, or like Awa from the movie Avatar is the spirit of that world. Gaia is the spirit of the earth. So I called it a Gaia pot, and I painted. I imagined different images on it, and I imagined a crane, a gorilla, a flying fish, a squirrel, and all these other things. And when I would imagine the crane, I didn't imagine a white circle behind it, but when I would see it in my mind, when I would imagine it, it looked like it had a white circle behind it. And the flying fish looked like it had diamonds in it. And I'm the one who thought of the idea of putting a crane and a flying fish on the Gaia pot. So it's definitely signs that what I would imagine it would be God on the other end of it, or perhaps even angels helping to design it, helping and design and putting things on it too. It was like God was saying He likes the crane, or the angels were saying they want me to get married with the flying fish. And the gorilla is the reason I'm telling you this story, because when I finished designing it, I painted it on a real clay pot. And we got a clay pot from our neighbor that looked just like the clay pot that I would see in this vision, that I saw in this vision, and that I see in my mind. And it was the same color. It wasn't exactly the same. It was a little shorter and fatter, but it was the same color. So I painted all the icons that I imagined from the clay pot on this clay pot that we got from our neighbor when she moved. And there were 3 of them. She gave us 3 clay pots. And I imagined 2 other clay pots before these clay pots were given. And they also had circles behind some of the icons I would imagine. Like the Jiminy Cricket had a green circle, and I didn't imagine that. And a bear in front of Mount Zion had a red circle, and I didn't imagine that either. And it just came out that way. And the gorilla, what I realized is that the tasks on the one with the crane was about me. And I figured that there was a task associated with each icon on the clay pot. And the crane was one. I had to draw a good piece of art and pray on it and tell God that it was mine. I ended up throwing it out, but that's not important. The gorilla was about Mount Fuji in Japan. Okay, so what I figured is that I had to cut my hand and let blood drop onto Mount Fuji. I kind of got the message that this was the task of the gorilla. And when I would imagine the gorilla in my mind, the gorilla looked like a cartoon, like it was animated, like it would move. It would look behind it at me, and then it would look forward. It's a picture of a gorilla with his back facing outward. So what I ended up doing is I cut my finger off after tattooing LOL on the finger. And when I was in the hospital, they thought it was a crazy thing to do, so they put me in a psych ward. And then when I was released on April 1st of 2016. And I saw that as the task of the gorilla. Now, it goes further, because before I started reading the Bible, I played with a statue of a clown. I did something called a sorcery board. It's like witchcraft. It's like Wicca. And I would kind of arrange different icons, like voodoo even, to mean certain things. And I had a little figurine of Ganesh. Ganesh is the Hindu god of obstacles. He's got an elephant head and a human body. So I had this statue of Ganesh, and I moved it towards a statue of my brother. And I was on the phone with him at the time, and he was on the road. And he said he was approaching a roadblock from police, or some kind of construction roadblock or something. And he said that to me on the phone while I was pushing this Ganesh figurine toward the cowboy. It was a yellow plastic cowboy. And I pushed it towards him, and he said he was experiencing that. So I figured that I was dabbling with something a little strange, and I walked away from it after that because it actually scared me. But the point is, the clown is the nature of the tattoo, the LOL on my finger, and the nature of getting released from the hospital. Because what I did at one point is I cut my hand and I let blood drip onto some ceramic tiles, small ceramic tiles, and I kind of stacked them up into 2 towers, and then I twisted them like that, and as if I wanted to open a gate or turn the knob of a door. And I was doing it in front of the clown because I was kind of, I don't know, I was just in the moment. It was a strange thing to do, but I was very bored, and I was actually kind of fascinated with the effect that it had on my brother. So I kind of asked the clown, let the clown be the image of God, and let this request be made. Let me enter the kingdom of heaven upon my death. And that's what my blood spilling on the ceramic tiles was. It was me saying, let me go to heaven when I die. And then this clown kind of guided me into completing the task of the gorilla. Now, what I think the reason for the gorilla looking like a cartoon, an animated cartoon, is because he thought it was difficult to do. It was impossible to go to Mount Fuji with the amount of money that I had, and to put my blood on the mountain and to fly all the way back. He thought it was a difficult task to do. And what I think also is that at the end of Barack Obama's presidential reign as president, that it would be the end of the quote unquote abomination. As if he's saying to me personally, it would be an abomination if you didn't complete your tasks before this date, before this year. And that's what I think it means, because on the clay pot, there's an image of my face facing a broken heart, and I imagine this shooting out stars and lines of blackness into the broken heart from my face at the top of the tower into a broken heart. So what I did once is I was in my backyard and I heard a voice come through me, and the voice spoke through me and said, "Tell me your dreams." So I listed them. I kind of figured, let's not pay attention to who that was. Let's just answer the question. And I listed all these dreams I could remember. And then when I walked back inside, my dad had cleared out the counter in the bathroom, and he put a conch shell on the bathroom. Now I looked up. I want to get this a little bit more clear, because it's actually a really interesting story and it's true. Okay, so on one of the clay pots, the one with the bear and the red moon, this is a different clay pot than my own with the crane. I imagined a grim reaper on the clay pot. The point of it was to come up with ideas for heaven, like what kind of stuff heaven would have in it. And the grim reaper was about the archangel of death. And what it is, it's an archangel that can descend into hell alongside an armada of death angels that would free souls from hell and allow them to ascend and become living people in heaven or on earth or whatever. And before I looked up who Shiva was in Hinduism on Wikipedia, I imagined this angel to be a slaughterer of demons. Like, that's what he did. He killed demons and got them out of the angels' way so that they could perform their job in hell. And then I looked up who Shiva was, because I saw A Serious Man, I think the name of the movie was, with the Coen brothers as directors. And they said, "We're sitting Shiva here." And then in the movie Michael Clayton, he says, "I am Shiva, the god of death." I didn't know what any of that meant, so I wanted to look it up because I saw connections and that kind of thing. And it said that he was a slaughterer of demons, the same exact thing I was imagining for this icon on the Gaia pot, on the one with the red moon. And I really wanted to offer my testimony so that you can see that God is real. And I'll show you the conch shell I have here. It's just a simple conch shell, but I talked to it. I talked to it and I pray to it, and I think it came from God. I think it came from Shiva or Ganesh or whatever. It says that Vishnu is the primary form of God in Hinduism and that Shiva is one of his forms. It says Ganesh is one of his forms. And trying to think about anything else I left out. I'm kind of a little stricken here. My mind kind of left me. But that's my story. Amen.